Today, getting back to you, we've not done this recording, we've not been back to you for some time now. But today, what I want to do is to look at what is trending. Today, Thursday, 13th of June, 2019. I want to talk about Democracy Day celebration, which we had yesterday, and then look at that within the context of the various holidays we've had. We had Muslim holidays, and we just had the swearing-in, and so on and so forth. And I'll also look at what's happened in National Assembly elections, and how the party, has which has been carried, and so on. And then we'll look at a few economic matters. We'll look at the rumor about Bloomberg that interest rates have been, exchange rate has been floated, so on and so forth. So we would, and then round up, by touching other things, for instance, devaluation and so on and so forth. Well, we just had a Democracy Day celebration, and there have been a few things being said, about the celebration. Some people have said, that former heads of states were not in attendance and so on, like sort of this message that probably they are not in agreement. And a few comments have been made whether in fact, June 12th should be appropriately adopted as Democracy Day. I think that in my book, that the day that somebody that won what has been dubbed the most free election in this country, Kashmau Abiola, and was not sworn in, and in the process he lost his life, and so on. And I think that it's good for him to recognize, and that as a compensation, that this nation, strive for us to observe that day and celebrate it as a Democracy Day. I think that's it's also good that the president has added to this, as we've been told, the national stadium in Abuja has been renamed. It's now going to be Kashmau Abiola Stadium. I think that's also good. Considering the fact that Abiola was quite involved in promoting sports, particularly in Africa. So I think that's something that is a worthy thing to do, and it shows us as people, with a soul. So I would commend the president, for taking this step. But thus, on the 29th of May, we also had the swearing-in of the president, for his next term. His next term. Now, the thing to ask is, going forward, I would expect that swearing of new government and Democracy Day, June 12th, we're talking about 13 days difference. I would expect that maybe we should push swearing in, to coincide with Democracy Day, so that we reduce number of holidays. I think that having holidays, within the space of 1 week, having 4 holidays, one for Democracy Day, one for swearing in, and 2, to mark the Muslim end of their fasting. It's expensive. Sometimes we don't costly. Sometimes we don't. In this country, we don't take societies on board and take them seriously, and begin to think that we are losing productivity. I think that's so. I would expect that will be corrected. Now, the other thing that just happened again that I would want to talk about is the elections at National Assembly. I think at this point, this time around, the party has had its way. The preferred candidates have been selected, and they've won at National Assembly. And of course, there have been comments, that to the extent that now, are we going to have an independent legislature? Well, I take it to a different perspective. You have adults in the National Assembly. I think that what we look forward really to having a harmonious relationship between the executive and the legislature. And so that we remove the rancor, remove the backtrailing, remove the suspicion, remove the lack of trust that hallmarks the relationship during the 8th National Assembly. So we would expect that will happen, and we would expect that they show their independence, and we would expect that we will have collectively a joint interest in making sure that things like this country moves, and that we have growth, we have development, we grow jobs in this economy. That's very important. So I think that we will see how it's going to run, and let's have a change. So I think that's a welcome, as far as I'm concerned, I think that's also a welcome development. Now, having talked about political issues, now let me now talk about what also is trending in the economic scene. Now, also, we might say that the president must understand that also there's a bit of road in the economy, that people are waiting for him to hit the ground. Like we're expecting for him to send a list of ministers to the National Assembly, so that we don't have a repeated experience of what happened during his first coming. So that the country is in a hurry. We've lost time, and we need to make sure that we cover time and that we don't be any delays. Now, whilst at this, in the economic front, there was this trending news that the central bank had devalued, had floated the Naira. And of course, the central bank has come to deny this. And I think that people should begin to now take this outside their mind. We don't have a market, foreign exchange in this economy. And for us to begin to expect that we're going to float the Naira. The Naira is not going to float, we're not going to float the Naira. I think what we have now, with stability we have now, which has earned, the governor is second term, to a large extent was due to the fact that we've attained some stability. And so we have the stability, and going forward, I think that we have to do everything to make sure that this stability is preserved. And so, Naira, as far as I'm concerned, the way it is today is okay. We can tinker with it. The importer-exporter window, to a large extent, it's the rate there, we all know. It's based on demand and supply, and so that's market. And so we expect that going forward, that it's not good, as we all know, for us to have multiple exchange rates in the economy. It makes room for rent seeking, and so it's not the best thing to happen. So we expect that going forward, that the governor of the central bank himself is aware, and they will know that there's something we need to do something in that regard. But I keep on saying that we must keep in focus the fact that the stability we have today is not disturbed. This is very important. Also, recently I did a post. Somebody dropped something in a platform where I share membership to the fact that we should also, that what we need, to cure the problem of this economy will be to devalue the currency and drop the exchange rate, to about 5%, and devalue about 35%, and so on. And now I took up that, and I thought that wasn't an informed recommendation. So on devaluation, my stand has always been that devaluation is an export-led driven strategy. So if you want to boost your exports in the international market, and you want to devalue to make the price of your products more competitive, they probably could do that. But also, in trying to do that, your trading partners are looking at you and watching what you're doing. And if you're not careful, that could precipitate, competitive devaluation. But in the Nigerian situation, where the major revenue, foreign exchange earning, comes from oil, and earn almost 80, 85, 90% of our revenue from oil, and this oil is denominated in dollars, there was the essence of devaluation. So you devalue, what will happen is that the price of your imports would skyrocket. And of course, we import not as per choice. We are importing, because we don't have any choice. We have to import. So the effect that will have on the economy is that prices, it will stoke inflation, and prices will go up, and then the misery in the land would worsen. So I think that devaluation is not the way to go. And of course, it's no brainer for us to begin to say we should drop interest rates. Economic fundamentals are not managed that way. You don't dictate. So you begin to manage the economy. Like I did say in my post, you cannot have, if you have an environment where the rate interest rate is lower than the rate of inflation, then savers are paying inflation tax. And so if they're paying inflation tax, they inform their saver will not leave his money to lose value on savings account. And to the extent that happens, then the central bank also, the money it mobilizes, which would enable central bank to effectively do, the banks to effectively do their financial intermediation activity, to that extent, it will be affected. And also the effectiveness of monetary policy will also be affected, because monetary policy is effective to the extent of amount of money it can reach. So you have a situation where so much money is outside the formal system in people's suitcases and locked up in places and so on and so forth. Then that would undermine the effectiveness of monetary policy. So having said that, I wish us all well. We are looking forward that this economy that will take off. We have confidence that the president himself is mindful of the need for him to have a legacy. So he's going to have a second and last term. And we've shown signs that things are going to be done differently. And we pray for his success. Thank you very much.